10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome tonight. After waiting hours for Governor Fubara's return, Rivers residents dispersed with plans to reconvene. Rivers Assembly resumes plenary, directs Governor Fubara to present budget and commissioner nominees. Federal government mourns the Afriland Towers fire victims, vows preventive measures with Lagos. And Donald Trump and wife depart UK after 2-day state visit.
And on business, National Assembly moves to fast-track 2025 budget implementation, orders lifting of contract freeze.
On sports news tonight, FIFA charges South Africa for fielding eligible midfielder Teboho Mokoena in a March clash with Lesotho.
And from the nation's capital, National Economic Council calls for liberalization of fertilizer access to farmers.
It was a long wait for residents of Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, today, as they anxiously await the return of their governor, Siminalayi Fubara, following the lifting of the suspension of the governor, his deputy, and members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. Thousands of residents had trooped to the government house in Port Harcourt as early as 7 a.m. to receive the governor. However, there was no sign of Governor Fubara. Our correspondent, Deborah Agbalama, reports.
Excitement filled the air at Government House, Port Harcourt, as a crowd gathered to welcome Governor Siminalayi Fubara 6 months after. For hours, they danced, sang, and celebrated the restoration of democratic governance.
We are here to welcome our sincere governor, our honorable governor, for his coming back. His character in the River State, he rebuked River State when he came in. We are all annoyed when they suspended him because we are not happy. Since we heard that he's back, that's why we are here today.
He's a good man. He was suspended for about 6 months, and the state has not been the same since he's not there. But now that he's back, we are happy that he's finally back, and the state will not remain the same again. So we are happy that he's back. We are here to welcome him, to show him our love and support.
Supporters are optimistic that the governor will make up for lost time now that the suspension has been lifted, and laud the FCT Minister Wike for playing a major role in the peace process.
By his nature, he's a very peaceful person. So he's never been a violent person. He's somebody we know right from his youthful age.
All of us are waiting. As you can see the crowd, since 7 o'clock, we have been waiting for him.
As the sun sets, the crowd gradually thins out.
As at the time of filing this report, the governor is yet to resume. Some of them are adamantly, they say they will wait here until he gets into the government house.
Elsewhere in Port Harcourt, the Rivers Elders and Leaders Forum gathered to brief the media. They thanked the president for restoring the elected arms of government with a word of advice for all arms of government.
On behalf of the Rivers Elders and Leaders Forum, we extend warm greetings of peace, strength, and renewed hope to the good people of Rivers State. We also thank the President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, DCFR, for lifting the state of emergency and restoring full democratic governance in our state.
With the return of democratic governance, residents hope all the officials can work together for lasting peace and development in Rivers State. Deborah Balama, Channels Television News.
The story was, however, different at the Rivers State Assembly as the members resumed plenary today after a 6-month break. And part of the resolutions during the day's plenary is the lawmakers calling on Governor Fubara to present an appropriation bill to them for the remainder of 2025. Our correspondent, Charles Opurum, tells us more.
It's all smiles at the Rivers State House of Assembly as lawmakers arrive for plenary. The first since President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency and suspended all elected officials 6 months ago. Today, the lawmakers are elated to be back, and there's a lot of camaraderie in the air. The Speaker, Martin Amewule, soon walks in and plenary begins. There's only one item on the order paper, a motion moved by the House Leader.
One of the major gains of this emergency rule is the conduct of a violent, free, successful local government election in the states that has produced the local government chairman, vice chairman, and councillors in the 23 local government area.
Other lawmakers lend their voice, calling on Governor Fubara to send a list of commissioner designates for screening and confirmation.
Our brother, our friend, our brother, Sir, similarly, Fubara, DSS, GSSFS, to forward the list of his nominees.
To commend the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for restoring democratic institutions in the state.
And I also call the governor of the state to be a man at this point, to save Rivers State, to do what is needful at this point, to focus with administration of the state.
The Speaker summarizes the day's plenary with a request.
The Rivers State Assembly will continue to abide in terms of the peace pact between us, the governor, and all stakeholders for the address of these states and the House for the good governance for their states. Thirdly, the House itself that will call on the governor of Rivers State, Sasimna Fubara, GSSRS, to forward the list of his nominees for appointment as commissioners into the Rivers State Assembly Council.
The lawmakers resolve that Governor Fubara present a budget for the remainder of the year, as well as send in the list of commissioner nominees for screening and confirmation. Charles Opurum, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, one of the key players in the politics of Rivers State and FCT Minister Nyesom Wike is excited about the return of democracy in the state and says he's optimistic that the state governor will resume his duties anytime from now. Mr. Wike, who was speaking on our political program Politics Today, explained that he has been in regular touch with the governor and all stakeholders are committed to working together in the interest of the state.
One peace. And the only way we can bring peace is look. Let us declare state of emergency and then see how things can stabilize. And of course, I've led to the meetings of my humble self, the governor, the assembly, the National Assembly, and other key stakeholders, which we all met and agreed on how to move forward. And to the glory of God, as I speak to you, peace returned. As at yesterday, I spoke with the governor, and he told me, and I told him I was leaving that night to come back, and he told me he was leaving this morning. So I can tell you, we believe by the grace of God, peace has come. And look at what the assembly did today to set the tone. You can see peace, you can see, look, we are prepared for the interest of the state. Let's move forward. The only thing I can always say,
I was watching on television today. You see, there are people who are natural crisis builders who think that they can only benefit when there's crisis. If, for us, for example, if we don't want this state of emergency to be lifted, we would have done one or two things to make sure that, no, let this state of emergency continue. No, for the interest of the state. I've been discussing with the governor, we've been talking from time to time, and he has assured me, look, we can't go back now. This is what we have told Mr. President, and Mr. President has taken enough time, energy, to say, look, he wants the state to be stabilized. And for me, anything that has to bring peace, I'm for it.
Now, there's more from the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, who has dismissed reports that he suffered a heart attack in London. The minister made the clarification in Abuja during the flag-off of construction of the arterial road connecting Wike district. Mr. Wike also restated his commitment to enhancing the nation's capital infrastructure, health, education, and quality of life for its residents.
From Wike to Ring Road 2.
A first round of project flag-off in the nation's capital begins with the arterial road connecting Wike district.
The Honorable Minister of the FCT.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, is accompanied by the National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Samuel Anyanwu, among other dignitaries for the ceremony.
The Honorable Minister of the
project is a Light Up Abuja program, which aims to provide integrated solar-powered streetlights and develop key infrastructure.
When completed, the project will provide the needed connection of the sector Center B, where we are now, which is the hub of commercial and economic activities that adjoins districts, 4 districts put together. That is Wike, Jabi, Utako, and Akibu in Phase 2.
This road serves as a symbol of growth, connectivity, and prosperity for all citizens of the FCT.
In his remarks, the minister underscores the significance of the project.
It's a road that will open up economic activities and improve the welfare of the people here. So there's nothing too special that we are doing it because it is only we that will use the road. No.
He also speaks on the industrial action of the FCT chapter of the Resident Doctors Association. He dismissed rumors that he had a heart attack.
The people in health said, look, they are being owed allowances. Fine. We lost our head of service. We just appointed an acting head of service. And I said, okay, go and check. How much are they talking about? After permanent secretary, treasurer, work out the allowances they say they are going to pay them. I hear that they said they were sick. I hear they said they have heart attack. God will continue to help them to have heart attack.
After speeches, the flag-off was done.
Signify the flag-off, the official flag-off of the construction of... There is movement.
Among the projects listed are the procurement of integrated hybrid solar lighting in Wike district, as well as the expressway under the Light Up Abuja program.
In part 2, after the break, the federal government mourns Afriland Towers fire victims, vows preventive measures with Lagos. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. After waiting several hours for Governor Siminalayi Fubara's return, Rivers residents dispersed to reconvene another day. Rivers Assembly resumes plenary, asks Governor Fubara to present the budget for the rest of the year and the list of commissioner nominees. Federal government warns victims of Afriland Towers fire to work with Lagos State government on ways to avert such incidents. And Donald Trump and his wife depart United Kingdom after a 2-day state visit. While residents of River State may be full of gratitude to witness the end of the emergency rule declared by President Bola Tinubu, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Ebun Oluwadegboruwa, says it is not to be celebrated as it infringed on the democratic rights of the people of the state. Speaking on our breakfast program, The Morning Brief, Mr. Adegboruwa further called for the sole administrator to give an account of how the state resources were spent during his tenure.
This is an unfortunate development. I see it as an aberration and something that ought not to happen at all, given our democratic experience. And that's why I thought that there ought not to be any form of celebration, as it were. There's a reason for a single individual, such as the president, with all due respect, to interfere with that mandate. The circumstances should be spelled out within the Constitution. Everybody is expecting the judiciary to give a definitive pronouncement that will guide people so that nobody will have excuse to take the laws into his hands or act beyond the powers granted by the Constitution. Nigerians are entitled to know from the president who was exercising oversight responsibilities over the sole administrator, from the National Assembly, in terms of accountability and transparency, how much was received during this period and what was it used for? What were the powers and the nature of those powers exercised by the sole administrator? Coming back to power now, the governor should realize the need for tolerance. As an executive leader in a state, you can't walk alone. Presenting budget to 3 people. The House of Assembly should understand the nature and limit of their powers. You are legislators. You cannot take over the role of the executive.
The federal government has expressed its sympathy over the tragic fire incident at the Afriland Towers in Lagos, which claimed the lives of some senior officials of the Federal Inland Revenue Service and the United Capital PLC. A statement by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, says the devastating loss is not only to the families and institutions directly affected, but to the nation. The minister explained that the federal government is working closely with the Lagos State government to ensure that the incident is thoroughly investigated and appropriate measures are taken to prevent a recurrence. So let's now head to the nation's capital, and Millicent Walker is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Millicent, over to you.
Many thanks, Ayotunde. We begin with the meeting of the National Economic Council, which has announced plans to boost food agricultural production and ensure food security in the country. The council in the meeting in Abuja also resolved to tackle the challenge of high cost of energy and fertilizers faced by smallholder farmers. Our State House correspondent Emperor Simon reports.
This 152nd meeting of the National Economic Council comes 21 days after the last one, and the Vice President, as usual, is presiding, with state governors and deputy governors, the National Security Advisor, some ministers and top government officials in attendance. Much of the discussion centers around boosting agricultural production in Nigeria and tackling the menace of flooding and its impact on livelihood in the country. Available statistics shows Nigeria has about 38 million agricultural households, with smallholder farmers making up roughly 88% of the farming population. However, according to a report of the Food and Agriculture Organization, only 44.5% of the households use fertilizers, with 347 kilograms per hectare on average. The National Economic Council receives a memo seeking to optimize supply of fertilizers to farmers.
The Council resolved to promptly tackle the challenges of high energy costs and the fertilizer prices in the country. 2. The Council also resolved that directed the Minister of State for Petroleum, Gas, to interface with the stakeholders in the industry with a view to addressing high costs and availability of gas domestically and report back to the Council during the next meeting.
According to the federal government, the administration of President Bola Tinubu has made some progress, including importation of over 500,000 metric tons of fertilizer raw materials. The Minister of Agriculture gives more updates.
The import was to liberalize the fertilizer industry. And that's why even within the last administration, we saw the rise of blending plants from about 4 or 5 in just a matter of few years to about 90 today.
Meanwhile, to address challenges posed by flooding and other natural disasters, an anticipatory action plan developed by the Office of the National Security Advisor was presented to the Council.
It's about establishing an anticipatory framework on flooding areas that would look into the possibility of providing immediate humanitarian support to the victims.
Outside the council chamber, Vice President Kashim Shettima leads members of the council to inspect the tricycles and some farming inputs, including solar-powered water pumps manufactured by the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure in Nigeria, NASENI. The agency states that the water pumps have the capacity to pump between 100,000 to 350,000 liters of water in a day. These facilities are expected to be rolled out for the dry season farming of 2025. And as NASENI requests for more funding to produce more of these facilities, it is expected that they would be made available and affordable for the rural farmers in Nigeria. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Let's head to politics now, where the 2027 general elections may be about 2 years away, but the Director General of the Tinubu Support Group, Mr. Umar Tanko Yakasai, says the ruling All Progressives Congress will not lose sleep over opposition political parties in the forthcoming polls. Mr. Yakasai stated this at a meeting with state coordinators of the Tinubu Ideological Group in Abuja.
State coordinators of President Tinubu Ideological Group are holding this meeting with the Director General of the Tinubu Support Group in Abuja, and the agenda is the 2027 general elections. The organizers have called for this meeting to galvanize grassroots support for President Tinubu, whom they say has done well at all fronts, including economy and security.
People created insecurity, allowed it to grow to a monster, and expect somebody who is not a magician to deal with it in 2 years. That's unfair. What you created is 16 years. You want somebody to clean it in 2 years. How? Is that fair?
The task before the group is clear. Organizers want members to gather information about the achievements of President Bola Tinubu and begin grassroots mobilization ahead of the 2027 election. The group believes strongly that the APC has no reason to worry about efforts of opposition coalition.
I don't think we are in any way threatened. We do not have any sleepless night because of the following reason. One, for you to win the presidency of this country, you need simple majority. You also need two-thirds spread in 25% in two-thirds of the country. And already, PDP have made it clear that they are not joining any coalition. They will produce a candidate from southern part of the country. So you see already how PDP will be on the ballot paper. ADC, they say they will be on the ballot paper. We don't know who they are putting on the ballot paper. But the good thing is that anybody who is in the political arena at this particular point in time, we know his history.
In law, there is what they call
unrest is allocated as facts speak for itself. So we have more to carry to people and tell people this is what we have done, and just we can't even stress ourselves.
Although the 2027 general election is about 17 months away, the galvanization of grassroots support for the president indicates that the ruling party is not undermining efforts of opposition movements to unseat the president in 2027.
And to other stories, royal fathers, and for the Olu of Warri, His Majesty Ogame Atuashe III, he believes the non-recognition of constitutional rules for traditional rulers is fueling criminality and other social vices in the country. The Olu of Warri gave this position while delivering a lecture at the 2025 Exercise Haskebue of the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Jaji, Kaduna State.
The Olu of Warri, His Majesty Ogame Atuashe III, is the special guest of honor at this session of the ongoing final training exercise Haskebue for Armed Forces officers on senior course at the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Jaji, Kaduna State. The Royal Father is here to deliver a lecture themed Strengthening Family Values as a Force for National Unity, the Role of Traditional Institutions.
In a nation where many people still identify first with their ethnic or tribal roots, traditional rulers carry symbolic and practical weight. Their behavior, their values, and their decisions shape community norm. Traditional rulers are often tasked with identifying and sanctioning offenders. Sometimes this is successful, but often these criminals operate within deeply entrenched networks that disregard community authority.
As Nigeria battles various forms of insecurity, the Royal Father believes that the security situation cannot be solved by kinetic force alone.
The motto of the Nigerian Army is victory comes from God. And it speaks directly to the work before us. Because this is not just politics or policy. This is war. But it's not war with bullets. It is war with culture. Not on battlefields, but in homes, in schools, and in hearts. What we seek, strong family values and moral clarity, it will not come without resistance. The war must be waged daily in our minds, in the way we parent, in our leadership style, in the way we live our lives.
By emphasizing the role of traditional rulers and the family unit in building a morally sound society, the Olu of Warri leaves the participants with a message to consider cultural dimension to ensure sustainable peace and security.
Still ahead on the news at 10, National Assembly moves to fast-track 2025 budget implementation, orders lifting of contract freeze. That's from Business News. To join us again. Watching the news at 10, coming to you live from our studios here in Abuja. We'll move on to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, as it has rearranged the former Minister of Power and Steel, Olu Agunloye, before the Federal High Court, Akwo, Abuja. Well, he was rearranged on an amended 7-count charge bordering on alleged official corruption and fraudulent award of Mambila Power Project contract to the tune of $6 billion. He pleaded not guilty to all the charges, following which the counsel for the EFCC asked the court for a date for the continuation of the testimony of the third prosecuting witness. The trial judge adjourned the matter till October the 9th, 2025 for continuation of trial. And that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to Ayotunde in Lagos for more on the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Millicent. The Nigeria Customer Credit Corporation has assured retirees at the federal and state levels that they are not left out of the program to ensure easy and convenient access to loans from the federal government. Speaking of the signing of a memorandum of understanding between Credit Corp, Optimus Bank and Leadway trustees in Abuja, The Managing Director of Credit Corps, Mr. Uzoma Wagba, disclosed that the partnership will ensure any eligible pensioner access loans seamlessly.
Just like it was done for Youth Corps members, the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation turns its attention to retirees. At this occasion, to sign a partnership agreement with Optimus Bank and Leadway trustees, the Managing Director of Credit Corps speaks on the motivation for the scheme.
Now, what I like about this partnership and what made us quite excited about the partnership with Optimus Bank is targeting a niche group of people, in this case, the annuitants who have gone through their long service, obviously, of work, have an income that is stable, that was their pension. And we still believe that consumer credit is even for them too, even after their working life. That if you have any sort of stable income and you want to have a better quality of life, everyday life demands that you should still be able to access credit even later on in your life post-retirement.
Some of the partners are optimistic of the potential of the scheme.
Today's signing ceremony represents a very big step in the right direction. Over time, they've been neglected, but the current administration has seen that it is, for whatever it is worth, we cannot move forward without them. They've put in so much, and then they should be recognized, and we should find a way of bridging whatever gaps they have.
If people have worked, for some time and then they are retired, that should not mean they should not be able to access some level of credit. And to that extent, we looked at, how we can play within that space and provide the necessary support.
One of the beneficiaries applauds the program.
This MOU today is a very, very big welcome idea, and it is my prayer that it will be done in a way that annuitants will be very happy with it, and everyone will feel the impact of the government at this level.
Credit Corps assures it will give its full support to the scheme. Daily Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
Nora Takaful Insurance Limited has once again rewarded policyholders who made no claims at its 2023 surplus distribution and claim celebration. Now, the company announced a surplus of over 404 million naira to more than 1,000 participants, including financial institutions, public and private organizations, and individuals.
Very limited public.
It is a celebration of trust. Nora Takaful Insurance Limited, once again, brings together regulators, partners, and industry stakeholders for its annual surplus distribution and claim celebration. A defining moment that reminds all that insurance can do more than protect. It can give back.
This gathering is particularly significant because today we announce the distribution of over 400 million naira in surplus for 2023 alone. But beyond this year, together we have shared a staggering 1 billion naira in surplus since our inception.
Unlike conventional insurance, where profits remain within the company, the Takaful model is built on mutuality. It isn't just a model, it's a movement.
I want to congratulate the company for all the work done so far and for the values that has been created. And I want to congratulate the beneficiaries for making the investment, because if you're getting returns, then you made an investment.
Since its first surplus distribution in 2017, Nora Takaful has remained consistent. The numbers prove this. Over 12 million naira in 2017 to over 15 million naira in 2018, over 36 million naira shared in 2019, over 109 million naira in 2020, over 208 million naira in 2021, and over 116 million naira shared from the 2022 financial year. Going by this year's surplus payout, the company has now returned over 400 million naira to more than 5,000 participants nationwide.
500 to 600 participants will be receiving various amounts from the surplus
amount. And this is something that we've consistently done since we started operations. It means that year in, year out, we give back money to our policyholders or participants who have not made a claim, and we have never failed. Based on our ethical nature, it's something that we believe will continue to distribute and pay out.
Beyond the surplus distribution, this year's celebration came with a sprinkle of surprise, as partners, institutions and stakeholders not only received their share, they walked away with gifts from a raffle draw.
Consistently in the last 4 years, we've been getting surplus distribution for New Takafu. And like I said, we are one of the key major participants in terms of our bank, what we do, and also engaging our customers to also take Takafu insurance. So that's necessitated us being part of the people eligible to participate in the surplus distribution.
As the curtains fall on the 2025 edition, Noah Takaful leaves behind not just checks, but a message that with transparency, accountability and fairness, insurance can inspire trust, drive inclusion, and improve the financial fortunes of Nigerians everywhere.
To guide us, to protect the investors and the policy.
Business News is up next with Will Ibong. Will.
Thank you, Ayotunde. And the National Assembly has asked the federal government to withdraw circulars stopping contract awards under the 2025 budget. Lawmakers say this clears the path for the 23.9 trillion naira capital spending plan to take off, with implementation extended into 2026. House Appropriations Chairman Abubakar Bichi says an authority to incur expenditure will be issued within 7 days. Also, lawmakers have resolved to extend the 2024 budget implementation until December 2025. The decision comes after a joint appropriations committee met with the president's economic team, including Finance Minister Wale Edun, Budget Minister Atiku Bagudu, and other top officials. Now, still with the executive arm, the federal government has ordered mining and quarrying companies to finalize agreements with host communities by December 31st, 2025, after a review showed a huge gap between licenses issued and agreements signed. Minister of Solid Minerals, Dele Alake, said over 1,300 titles were granted last year, but only 342 agreements have been signed so far. He warned that firms failing to comply face license revocation and reparations. Mr. Alake also urged host communities to set up credible negotiation teams and warned leaders against personal demands, stressing that mining must deliver real benefits to locals. Now, outside our shores, the Bank of England has left interest rates unchanged at 4% as policymakers weigh stubborn inflation against slowing growth and a cooling jobs market. The decision was widely expected, with the two committee members favoring a small cut. The central bank says the inflation remains on track to return to its 2% target, but risk from wage growth and services costs persist. Back home, Tier 1 lender United Bank for Africa has posted a profit after tax of 335.5 billion naira in the first half of 2025, up from 316.4 billion naira a year earlier. Now, profits before tax stood at 388.4 billion naira, boosted by lower tax expenses. Interest income rose 33% to 1.33 trillion naira, lifting net interest income to 773 billion naira, despite higher cost of funds. Credit loss charges also fell, supporting stronger earnings. Now, the bank, however, reported a 10 billion trading and FX loss compared to a gain last year. Now, still, revenue growth outpaced expenses, improving cost efficiency. With that, we're checking with the domestic equities market, which has sustained gains in today's session amid buy interest in Guinness, Nigeria. Laddie Williams tells us more.
Well, positive sentiment continued to drive the Nigerian equities market today, with bargain hunters lifting the key stocks and pushing the market into another day of gains. 142,000 there for the All-Share Index, 0.16%. That was a close today, and we're back at 90 trillion for the market cap. back like we never left at this point. Now, we see Guinness Nigeria. This one has been on fire, topping the Guinness chart today. 176 naira, big 10% uptick there. This start the week at about 143 naira, up about 23% already, this week. And we see Regal Insurance also up there, 9.82%. Let's look at the laggards for today. The ones that didn't get much love, but sales. You see Consolidated Hallmark Insurance that closed at 4 naira, took about 7.59% down to lead that counter. But with investors showing sustained confidence, the market closed on a bullish note, signaling momentum that could set the tone for the TGIF trade. That's tomorrow. Investors will also be watching out for next week, the monetary policy decision day. The U.S. just cut rates. Will Nigeria follow?
Thank you, Ladi. We'll keep an eye out for that next week when the MPC meets. But meanwhile, in the U.S., we see the S&P 500 hitting records after the U.S. cut rates for the first time this year. Let's see a snapshot of their closing numbers and those of other major equities. And as business news is back to Sunday for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Will. U.S. President Donald Trump has suggested Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer could use the military to stop illegal migration at a news conference, marking the end of his two-day state visit to the U.K. as he returns to the United States. Here's Simon Pewsey with more international news and around the world in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
Donald Trump has criticised Vladimir Putin as Keir Starmer said both countries were working to put pressure on the Russian president to agree to a Ukrainian peace deal. On the final day of the US president's state visit, the pair also hailed a technology prosperity deal, with Mr. Trump praising the unbreakable bond with the UK and saying the two countries will cooperate to dominate the future of AI. The UK government previously said it had secured £150 billion worth of US investment, which it hopes will create 7,600 jobs. Earlier, the US president shook hands with the king as he left Windsor. Meanwhile, the Princess of Wales spent time with the First Lady, Melania Trump, meeting a group of young scouts in Windsor.
The one that I thought would be easiest would be because of my relationship with President Putin, but he's let me down. He's really let me down. It was going to be Russia and Ukraine, but we'll see how that turns out. But that turned out to be, I thought it might be among the easiest of the group. But we had settled just about every conflict, and as you know, we're working very hard on Israel and Gaza, all that's happening over there.
We're also working together to end the killing in Ukraine. In recent days, Putin has shown his true face, mounting the biggest attacks since the invasion began, with yet more bloodshed, yet more innocents killed, and unprecedented violations of NATO airspace.
Israel's far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich has said that the Gaza Strip could be a real estate bonanza and that he is in talks with the US about dividing up the territory after the war, an idea previously condemned internationally. Meanwhile, local residents and eyewitnesses say dozens of Israeli tanks and military vehicles have pushed into a major residential district of Gaza City on the third day of Israel's ground offensive aimed at occupying the area. Video footage shows tanks, bulldozers and armoured personnel carriers moving on the edges of Sheikh Radwan in northern Gaza City. Israel says the aim of its Gaza City offensive is to free hostages held by Hamas and defeat up to 3,000 fighters in what it describes as the group's last stronghold. Spanish police say they have arrested 19 people suspected of murder and torture after more than 50 went missing from a migrant boat that was travelling from Senegal to the Canary Islands. Police suspect some of the victims were accused of being witches after several incidents during the journey, including engine failure, bad weather and food shortages. The wooden vessel was rescued south of Gran Canaria on the 24th of August, with 248 survivors on board. Hundreds of thousands of workers have taken part in strike action across France after trade unions called for a day of protests against budget cuts. The Interior Ministry said between 600,000 and 900,000 people attended demonstrations nationwide, adding it deployed 80,000 police officers. Scuffles were reported in the cities of Lyon and Nantes, where police used tear gas to try to disperse protesters. The strikes come barely a week after Sébastien Lecornu, a close ally of President Emmanuel Macron, was appointed Prime Minister. ABC has pulled the late-night host Jimmy Kimmel off air indefinitely over comments he made about the shooting of the right-wing influencer Charlie Kirk. Jimmy Kimmel Live will be preempted indefinitely, a spokesperson for the Disney-owned network said in a statement. It's after Kimmel said during his show that the MAGA gang was trying to score political points off Kirk's killing.
The MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Kimmel has not commented, but President Donald Trump congratulated ABC for finally having the courage to do what has to be done. And a prolific shoplifter who led police on a 10-mile-an-hour pursuit in a car with no working tyres has been jailed. A police stinger popped all 4 of the car's tyres, but the suspect continued driving through the village in what police have called one of the slowest pursuits ever seen in Derbyshire, before he was eventually boxed in and arrested.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. In the world of sports, the Super Eagles of Nigeria might just have been handed a potential lifeline in their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying campaign after the World Football Governing Body, FIFA, officially charged South Africa for fielding eligible midfielder Teboho Mokoena in the Group C clash with Lesotho in March. FIFA confirmed to the South African Football Association that both the Confederation and Mokoena face charges of breaching disciplinary regulations. The case has been referred to the FIFA Disciplinary Committee, with SAFA given 6 days to respond. If found guilty, the Bafana will lose 3 points and 3 goals and will reshape the position of things in Group C. Let's turn to club football now. Benfica has appointed Jose Mourinho as their coach earlier today, with the Portuguese returning to work in his homeland 21 years after leaving FC Porto for Chelsea. The 62-year-old, who also coached Real Madrid and Manchester United, amongst other clubs, was sacked by Turkish side Fenerbahce in August after Benfica beat them in the Champions League playoffs. Mourinho has signed a contract to run until the end of the 2026 and 2027 season. And the Champions League gets attention next as Club Brugge got their 2025-2026 Champions League campaign off to a perfect start as they ran riot with a 4-1 win against AS Monaco. Elsewhere, Bayer Leverkusen snatched a point thanks to an own goal from Copenhagen's Pantelis Haziatakos in the 91st minutes in the game ending 1-1. In other matches played, Frankfurt fought back from conceding an early goal to convincingly beating Galatasaray 5-1. Elsewhere, Erling Haaland and Jeremy Doku were on the score sheet as Manchester City fought hard to beat 10-man Napoli 2-1. And Marcus Rashford scored a brace as Barcelona defeated Newcastle 2-0 at the St. James's Park. Francisco Trianco scored 2 stunning goals as Sporting beat Champions League debutants Karat Almaty 4-1 in Lisbon. Away from the Champions League now, United States, Sydney McLaughlin
Levroni brought the house down earlier today by coming within a whisker of breaking the 4-decade-old women's 400 meters world record at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. The American ran through the rain to take gold and post the second fastest time in history of 47.78 seconds at the Tokyo National Stadium. In the meantime, Busan Colin Kebinachibi impressively won the men's one-lap title. Botswana came into the men's 400 meters final never having won a medal in the event of the championships. They left with 2. The largely unknown Busan took gold in 43.53 seconds, the fastest time in the world this year. And that's sports. I'm Kelly Egiga. It's back to you today.
Many thanks, Kelly. And the main news again. After waiting several hours for Governor Siminalayi Fubara to return to Government House in Port Harcourt today, residents dispersed to reconvene for another day. Rivers Assembly resumed plenary today as they asked Governor Siminalayi Fubara to present the budget for the rest of the year and the list of commissioner nominees. The federal government has mourned the Afriland Towers fire victims and has vowed preventive measures with the Lagos state government. And US President Donald Trump and his wife Melania have departed the United Kingdom after a 2-day state visit. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun, and do have a good night.